It's the Prez Lawrence President. It's the NFL Presidential Address. Ralph Michaels with us. We take apart every game of the board. And Ralph, how are you, my friend? What's going on, brother?
You know what? Busiest couple weeks of the season for me, but I love it. College basketball, college football, NBA, NFL. Doing great, Prez.
Excellent, my friend. Excellent. We're going to take apart every game on the board. But before that, we always start the show with trends and angles from you. So regale us, my brother.
Well, just three this week. And again, we're not basing a play just on these, but more listen to the concept and see if you understand them and if it helps you handicap in the future. Well, from week 8 on, when you have an NFL team that has 0 or 1 wins and they're a home dog of 5 or more, that's going to be Cincinnati this week. You figure that to be a pretty bad record, and it is. 3-16 against the spread with 2 pushes, only 16% since 2013. So simply from week 8 on, which means you have 0 or 1 wins, at least 6 losses, could be 7, could be 8. NFL teams with 0 or 1 wins, and they're a home dog of 5 or more. Now, last week we looked at teams that had gotten to 500. So what are 5-5 teams off a loss? It means you were 5-4. You potentially were going to 6-4. Instead, you are now 5-5. You lost your last game. If you are a dog of 3 or more, being 5-5 and off a loss, you've only gone 5-15 against the spread the last 6 years. 20% ATS, that is to fade Carolina against New Orleans. And one for Thursday night, Prez. We're going to get into this game in 1 minute. But teams with same season revenge that are off a loss, and now they're a favorite of 3.5 or more. To me, this makes perfect sense. This is Houston on Thursday. They have same season revenge. They went into Indy a couple weeks ago and lost. They are off a loss. They are off an embarrassing loss, and they're the favorite of 3.5. 32-14, 70% against the spread. That is a Houston play for the Thursday night, which we're going to talk right now after you change the backdrop and say, woohoo, primetime games.
Woohoo, primetime games. But before we do that, I love that last trend, and there's a lot of logic to it. A couple of things, and then we'll get into the primetime games. I had a terrible Sunday, Ralph. I had the under in the Indianapolis game. Right call, wrong ending. I had Arizona, although I had 10.5. A lot of people lost with that play. That one will go down in the annals of the most absurd endings of all time. I had Philadelphia. Yeah?
Nobody lost, but they pushed.
Yeah. Okay, push. But I mean, that game was in the bag, Ralph.
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree.
I mean, and then I had Philadelphia, and Tom Brady didn't put a touchdown in the end zone, and they lost. Just a tough week for me. I like to be upfront and open about it. I've actually been rolling in NFL the last month, and I came to the skids this past Sunday. I just wanted to get that out there.
Well, Prez, there's a lot of new gamblers here that come to Wager Talk TV. There's a lot of new gamblers that go to Wager Talk and buy handicappers and expect to win the first time. Simplest thing I could say is this. As a handicapper, we absolutely dream for a 60% season. Well, if you break out 10 weeks and you win 60%, that means there's going to be 4 losing weeks. It might be the first 2 weeks. It might be the first 3 weeks. It might be 4 weeks in a row. But even at a 60% clip, there's 4 losing weeks in a 10-week period.
Yeah, and Ralph, you mentioned that, and it's a perfect segue to our promo. I've been talking all day on all my shows about Tony Finn, and his NFL record this year is 32-14, 32 wins and 14 losers. That's a 70% average. 2 years ago, he ended the season on a 67% average. Over 6 years of doing NFL at wagertalk.com, his NFL record is 61%. So yeah, when you say we all want a 60% season, Tony Finn does that every single year in the NFL. He's also on a 12-4 all sports run. And what I did, Ralph, is I took $100 off of his monthly package. We regularly sell a month of Tony for $325. It's now $225. Head over to wagertalk.com and use the promo code Tony225.
Prez, I just got to throw one more thing in on that. You pay $325 for a month in September. You pay $325 for a month in October. You're giving $100 off, only charging $225. Oh yeah, let's not forget, Tony also does college basketball. Tony also does the NBA. This is the one best month of the year to get an all-access guy, and you took $100 off Tony as well.
Yeah, and Tony is 7-3 to start college basketball. He's 7-1 in hockey. He is 2-4 in the NBA, or 4-6 in the NBA. So look, there is one sport he's down in, but he'll fix that. He's amazing in NBA. But yeah, dude, I mean, you're right, and we should be selling a shit ton of these packages, because nobody has been more consistent over 6 years than Tony in any single sport. Ralph, let's get to it. We've had a line move in the Houston game. It was 3.5 earlier today. It's now pretty much 4 across the board with an over and under 45.5. And the bottom line for me is I like Houston here, Ralph. I like Houston, and I do lean on the over. I think this Houston offense is going to go off. Sport's a weird thing, Ralph. Houston drives down the field their first possession against Baltimore. It might have been their second, but right at the beginning of the game. And they throw a perfect touchdown pass. A defensive back was literally draped all over the wide receiver with no pass interference called. And it took the points off of the board. I think something like that changes the entire complexion of the game. Baltimore goes up by 2 scores at that time after that, and really just ran away with the game. I think this Houston team, as I said last week, is much better than most people think. Look, I'm impressed with Indianapolis, and I'm impressed with what Jacoby Brissett has done. But I think Houston is going to win this game and going to win this game going away.
I obviously looked up that system because, I like Houston as well. Prez, the line move today, we can blame that on Backpack Boy out here in Vegas. He ran around a couple places and bought up Houston, and that moved the number. Teddy and I talked about that on sports, on Wager Talk TV on Sports Grid. So, that's not like a lot of sharp people. That's one person putting a lot of money on. And what happens is when the casinos hear that he's out making bets, they automatically raise the number so they don't get caught. So they automatically are moving on air just because one person's betting on one casino. So it's not an inundation of money like we sometimes have. With that said, I like Houston as well. I like the situation off the embarrassing loss. They've played 4 of their last 6 games on the road. That's a tough stretch. Now you're at home. You're home Indy, you're home New England, you're home Denver. Then you look at the Colts, and you may say, well, they've done well, but in their last 8 games, 2 road games. They've had 6 games at home. Yeah, you're supposed to win those games. And they still ended up losing a home game to Oakland, a home game to Miami, and at Pittsburgh. I like Houston, and this is something I will use from here and many more shows. If you take one thing out of my handicapping, when you're handicapping the NFL and you get to November, if you have the better team looking up in the standings, to me, it is a play. That's exactly when you want to play on a team. While Houston and Indy may have the same record in 6-4, with Indy winning the first game, Houston actually is behind him in the standings looking up.
Green Bay is behind San Francisco in the standings looking up, and although they're not in the same division, these guys are going to be dueling for home field advantage all the way through. Green Bay is now a +3, and there is a couple of 3.5s on the board going into San Francisco. The total in this game is 46. Ralph, I'll be really quick here. I like over the total in this game. I like it a lot. And I lean towards Green Bay, but that's not to take away from San Francisco. I'm very impressed with what San Francisco has done. But look, they should have lost the game outright to Arizona. They're not as good as their record dictates. I don't think Green Bay is as good as their record dictates either. But I think, if I'm going to get the points in a game that is so crucial to both teams, I'm going to take them.
I'm taking the points as well. I'm going to take Rodgers over Garoppolo. San Fran got the win. They're still 3-16-2 as a home favorite. That's a pretty crappy number for a good team. And while, with Garoppolo this year, they only played 5 games. They were still 2-3 in those games. Lose to Seattle, could have lost to Arizona. You did blow out Carolina. Yeah, you blew them out, but that's because you were plus turnovers. You didn't blow them out on the scoreboard. You only had 388 yards. We've seen some injuries start to take effect with San Francisco, and I will take Rodgers plus the points as well.
We're on the same page, brother. Are we on the same page with this Baltimore Rams game? A fascinating game to me. Baltimore clearly leaps and bounds better than any team in the league right now. Lamar Jackson putting up all-world numbers. Their offense is unique. It's exciting to watch. It's fun. They're running a 2 tight end set almost all the time and sometimes lining them up in the backfield. They're going into LA and playing the Rams, and Baltimore is on the road at -3. The last time we saw Baltimore on the road was against Seattle. They handed them a whooping. The over and under in this game is 46.5. And Ralph, I'm a little concerned about the Rams, and I don't really want to step in front of Baltimore right now, but I do like the over. The bottom line is, everybody's talking about New England's phony, incredible defense. Baltimore put up 37 points. Okay, 30 points, 7 came from the defensive position. But I don't see how the Rams can stop them. And the Rams have a really good defense. With that said, I think the biggest and most important play in that Rams game was the touchdown pass that came back on a holding call. What it showed us was that finally they're stretching the field a little bit. I think they're going to have some of their injuries back. I think the Rams will be able to put up points. I like the over, my friend.
I'm going to be pretty wishy-washy on this one because originally I bought into Baltimore and said, I like them, but it's a different dynamic being an away favorite than it is an away dog. They're 15-5 on the road, and you can see why. You have a running game to slow down the clock. You have a very good defense. But when you're the dynamic of an away favorite, it changes the perspective. You're taking a team that was in the Super Bowl, the Rams. You're making them a home dog. This Rams team still has a very good defense. It's going to keep them in the game. I think I'm going to be, by the end of the week, I'm going to be leaning on the Rams, but it's not making my card either way.
We're agreed. I'm not going to be betting the Rams or Baltimore in this game. Ralph, we're getting to the early games. Before we do that, let's have a scroll change. Basically, it's for you, my friend. 24-16 NFL run. Your college basketball is plus 133 units in the last 11 and a half months. And your college football is up on the season. I took the same deal with Tony. I gave it to you. I took $100 off of your monthly package. So, guys, head over to wagertalk.com. You can get 30 days of all of Ralph's plays for $225. Please use the promo code RALPH225. Ralph, Miami lost to Buffalo. Their 2-game win streak is done. They're now going to Cleveland. Cleveland is minus 10.5. And, look, we spoke a little bit about what Myles Garrett did. It was disgusting, deplorable, and probably one of the worst things I've seen in my life on the sport. It would be the equivalent of someone taking a hockey stick and whacking it over somebody's helmetless head. But I don't know if it's a bad thing necessarily for Cleveland, at least for the first game. I think Cleveland is going to rally behind the situation. I think although the players are all probably ashamed, they are going to come together here. And, I told you 2 weeks ago Cleveland was going to go on a run, and they have started that. And I think they're going to beat Miami. I don't think that is going to be a problem. It's whether they cover the 10.5. Myles Garrett is going to definitely affect the Miami's ability to score. I think they'll score a little bit more. I think he's one of the best defenders in the league. And Cleveland's offense has been out of sync. But if ever your offense is out of sync, ask Josh Allen and the Buffalo Bills. Miami is a good medicine for that. I like Cleveland minus the double digits.
When you're playing the Miami Dolphins, it's a game of motivation. The Dolphins were horrific early. People didn't care about playing the Dolphins. They looked past the Dolphins. It wasn't a team that they took seriously. What happens? The Dolphins reeled off 3 straight ATS wins. Well, then the Dolphins won a couple games. They beat the Jets. They beat Indianapolis. What happened last week? For the first time this season, somebody took the Dolphins seriously. Buffalo had played Miami earlier in the year. They let him hang around. They didn't let him hang around. They took him seriously. And when a team does that against a bad team, they can name their score. I think the Browns can do that. I am a little bit concerned about the line. Prez, what were you doing in 1996?
I was for sure having a lot of sex.
Well, since that time, 1996, the Browns have been a double-digit favorite one time. That's it.
Wow.
We're talking 24 years, and this is only the second time they've been in that role. So that is a little bit concerning because when you look at the Browns have scored 21 points or less in 5 of their last 6 games. The only game they scored over that was the loss against Seattle where they scored 28. But as you said, Odell Beckham starting to get some targets. I think they're finally starting to see the offense work where Beckham's looking for them. And as far as the situation goes, I agree. I think the players and the media respect Baker Mayfield much more than they ever did. For those that watched that press conference right after the game, for him to stand up and say, that was horrible. He shouldn't have ever done that. I mean, there's something about that can be galvanizing, that he proved to me he was finally a team leader by saying, I don't care if you're my teammate or wrong. That was completely wrong to do, and we're embarrassed by that. So from that standpoint, I agree that the Browns aren't, excuse me, looking past this Miami team. And when that happens, you can win and cover against them.
Ralph, Denver going into Buffalo, it came out at 5. It sat at 5 for a day. It's now at -4. There's obviously some big money coming in on Denver, and I don't quite get it. I understand one thing. This Denver team has had a real tough season. They have been in almost every game they've played. I think they've lost 4 or 5 games literally in the last minute, including 2 games in the last second. They had Minnesota on the ropes. They let them go. And then they had that drive at the end of the game to win the game and couldn't really finish it, even though it was, again, pass interference on the wide receiver on the last play of the game. I think that's got to be at some point very demoralizing for a team, and especially a defense. I think Denver is quitting. I think last week was their best game of the year. And I think Buffalo has to feel really good about themselves right now. I understand it's only beating Miami, but let's be honest here. Miami was on a 2-game win streak up until then, and Buffalo hadn't really been able to put together an offensive gem. Josh Allen looked phenomenal. I think he got 4 or 5 touchdowns on the game. He was able to move the ball. He was able to keep run in the pocket. And the weather's going to likely be shit. I like Buffalo here, Ralph, and I actually like Buffalo a lot. I will be getting to the window with the Bills.
All right, that's good, Prez. Now I can ask you this.
When was the last time?
No. We've talked about, New England and their historic bad schedule. I'm just going to be devil's advocate and say Buffalo's wins.
Yes.
Week 1 against the Jets, week 2 against the Giants, Cincinnati, Miami, Washington, Miami.
Yeah, it's as bad as New England. I get it, Ralph, but I'm not betting on Buffalo here.
Okay.
I'm betting against Denver.
I bet against Denver each of the last 2 weeks, and guess what? Ralph Michaels 0, Brandon Allen too. So, and trust me, they were not pretty. You watch that Cleveland game, Brandon Allen threw a 75-yard little flip pass to the tight end, and the Browns missed 5 tackles. You saw those couple plays early. They took the big lead against Minnesota, and then they didn't do anything else. So I completely understand. I also understand your point about Denver quitting. So I'm not backing Denver here. I'm just being devil's advocate. So calm down when I called out the Buffalo's
Hey, I'm
wins.
not a Buffalo Bills fan.
I will say this. Brandon Allen started out great against Cleveland, and they had a 17-12 halftime lead, never lost the lead. Started out great against Minnesota, got out to a 17-0 lead. They also know Brandon Allen is not going to be the quarterback in 2 weeks. They're waiting for Drew Lock to get healthy. That's the guy they drafted, and that's the guy who's going to be the quarterback. So you really have a quarterback here who knows he's not going to be the quarterback, who's going to start looking over his shoulder, who might have not started this game if Lock was healthy. So from that respect, I completely agree. Denver's beaten me twice, so I have no play in this game because I'm not going against him again. But completely agree that Denver's a very fake team. And your record, Prez, that you talked about, they've lost 4 games by 4 points or less. And the reason they've lost those games, in the last 6 games, Denver has not scored a fourth quarter touchdown.
He's Ralph Michaels. I'm the Prez. You're watching the NFL Presidential Address. You can find it every week. We tape on Tuesdays at Wager Talk TV, our YouTube channel. Ralph, the anemic Pittsburgh Steelers offense and Mason Trent Dilfer Rudolph is heading to Cincinnati. The line has dropped to 39. Pittsburgh is minus 6.5 to 7. And, I think missing Pouncey is going to be massive. I think this Pittsburgh offense is really struggling. I like the under in this game. But, Ralph, more than that, I like Cincinnati. And I actually see a way for Cincinnati to get their first win. I understand Pittsburgh's defense is really good, but if you can't score, you can't win. And you want us to cover 7, not going to happen. I like Cincinnati.
Well, I can say this. I've got ugly numbers for both. Pittsburgh 1-7 against the spread as a favorite. As a dog, you want to back them. As a favorite, no way. But the Bengals also 1-9 ATS their last 10 home games. Bengals and Denver are the only 2 teams that haven't topped 25 points at all this season. Their best performance was 23 against Arizona. With that being said, Pittsburgh is an away favorite, 5-23 over under. Their defense is completely legit. The Cincinnati offense is anemic. The Pittsburgh offense anemic. And you might think 39 is a low total. I make this number 36 when I made the total for this game. So I think there's value with 39.
Yeah, and also, guys, make sure as we enter the dark days of November and December to check the weather reports. But yeah, I agree with you. The under is definitely the play. But yeah, I like Cincinnati too. I just can't lay those type of points with a team that's really struggling to score. And, Cincinnati's defense did well against Oakland last week, and they almost pulled that game out.
Well, again, Ryan Finley looks. I just think that the coaching staff's overmatched. I think Ryan Finley's overmatched. So to me, I think there's actual value with the under, even with this number under sub 40.
I agree. New York Giants going in to Chicago. The Giants are plus 6.5. The over and under here is 40.5. And look, it makes no difference whether. Well, it does make a difference whether Mitch Trubisky's playing or not. He's the single worst quarterback I've ever seen in my life. That is in the NFL. There are backup quarterbacks in college football that are better than him. This man makes overthrowing quarterbacks look like a thing of beauty. So who knows who the quarterback is? I think it's better for Chicago if it's not him. With that said, Ralph, I don't know how you can lay points with Chicago. I get that the New York Giants are crap, and I get that their defense is terrible. But this offense can score points, and we've seen them score points against teams all year. New York Giants are the play here, for sure. Well,
I was on the Giants against Detroit, And it was, the same situation. We thought Detroit wasn't going to be able to move the ball.
I never
it was
thought that.
Well, that's right. You like the over too. I did at least, and I look at the Giants, and you still have a healthy Barkley. You still have a Daniel Jones. He's got a nice ratio over the past couple weeks. But boy, my concern is in the last 4 games, he's gotten sacked 22 times. And, the Bears may have not gotten any sacks against the Rams, but that Bears team is very, very capable of getting sacks. This is another game. I'm just going to simply say that I like the under.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, given that I think Chicago is good I'm going to give them 5 points because I feel like they will maybe hit a field goal. And I think a safety, given their defense, is a hell of a lot more likely than a touchdown. So I'll give Chicago 5 points in this game.
It might be a game where you're looking at, will there be a defensive or special teams touchdown? You're going to get plus 250 on that.
Yeah, good point. Let's do a quick scroll change. I want to talk to you a little bit about Dave Koken. Ralph, Dave, we talked at the beginning of the season about that 60% being the magic number. Dave Koken has averaged 63% or better for 3 straight years in college football. This year, after a 3-1 Saturday, he's now 64% on the season in college football, which I find to be remarkable. I took a bunch of money off of his college football and bowl package. You guys can head over to wagertalk.com and get the rest of Dave Koken's college football all the way through to the national championship game, which should feature Baylor versus SMU because the college football system's so bloody stupid. And you can get it for $279, Koken 279. We should do a show on the idiocy of the college football system. They've got all these conferences. Why the hell they can't just take the conference winners and throw them into a tournament is beyond me. But that's for another show. Ralph, Oakland against the Jets. And we've had a massive the Jets. I'm going to tell you flat out, Ralph, right now, I bet the Jets on Sunday night. I got them at plus 3.5. And now there are 2.5s on the board. I think this line's going to keep moving down, and I understand it. We've seen the New York Jets put 2 wins together, and I don't think anybody, Joe Public, smart guys, wise guys, even John Gruden himself could make sense of this Oakland team. We all talk about the fact that they're a year ahead of schedule, and they have been really, really medium well so far this season. They got a big game on board after that. The thing is, that game against Kansas City is meaningless if they lose this game. And frankly, Ralph, I think they will lose this game. I think the Jets are feeling really good. And, Teddy studies quotes a lot. He likes to know what the mindset and the emotional makeup is of the teams he's betting on. And, Sam Darnold came out after their win 2 weeks ago and said, hey, if we, run the table, we're going to make the playoffs. And yeah, although that is unlikely, it's an interesting quote and an important quote because this New York Jets team is getting some confidence. Their defense is pretty good, and Sam Darnold is playing well. I'm going to take the points at home. I don't think Oakland is going to travel well for this game.
I disagree with you and say the Jets defense is playing freaking well. They're allowing 332 yards per carry and 20 first downs.
Did I say
3.0 yards? No, You said they're playing pretty good. I'm saying they're playing much better than that.
Okay.
I look at their defense. They haven't allowed 400 yards all season. I think there's only one other team that can say they haven't allowed 400 yards. And this was with the most anemic offense they had, playing a third-string quarterback early on in the year.
And with the defense permanently on the field.
Yeah, I believe the Jets are the better team here. So I'm going to take the better team plus the points at home.
So you actually would like to detract your first statement and say, Prez, I agree with you.
Well, no, I just disagreed with the defense playing
fine,
okay.
But we both like the Jets.
Yes, we do.
Carolina going into New Orleans and 9.5 for New Orleans with a total of 46.5, 47. It's a massive number for a division rivalry game. It's so interesting, Ralph, because I think we have a huge overreaction to New Orleans going in and beating Tampa Bay. Jameis Winston, I think there was four interceptions thrown and a fumble, and yet Tampa Bay, even after a terrible start, was still in the game right up until the last 5 minutes of that game. Carolina, I don't know what the hell's going on with this team, dude. I want to make an argument for Carolina here. It's the team I think is the right side in this game. And I'd like to make an argument for the over. I think that's the right way to go in this game. But instead, I'm just going to pass.
I don't like either one for basically the same reasons. I mean, McCaffrey still runs the ball. Kyle Allen's making mistakes. And Kyle Allen, again, he impressed me in the Green Bay game playing from behind, but he still didn't get it done. They lost by 8. I'm gonna butt heads a little bit, but since you didn't use him as a play and you just talked about it, I actually like the under. When Kyle Allen's on the road, and as long as New Orleans doesn't blow him out early, they're just going to try to run the ball with McCaffrey and be very conservative. I think Kamara back at home. You're back at home off the Tampa Bay game. You're going to try running Kamara. We've seen Drew Brees. Yeah, he passed 35 times, but only for 200 yards last week. I actually lean the under, with these two foes that are going to play twice in the next 6 games.
Tampa Bay, the team we were just talking about, going into Atlanta, and I don't know what to make of either of these two teams, Ralph. Atlanta is the worst defense ever. Then they go on a bye week, come back with Lawrence Taylor, the late Reverend Reggie White, and frickin' Ronnie Lott in safety and the safety position. This Tampa Bay team can beat anybody, including themselves, anytime they want. And what we've found is they like to beat themselves, which is fine. They're a bunch of men. Most men like to beat themselves. We get it. Respect. But the bottom line for me here, Ralph, is I think Atlanta has to be feeling really good about themselves. I think Quinn's coaching position is on the line. I think, they've got the weapons. I think they've turned it around. Look, it's a little too late. They're going to definitely struggle to get into the wild card picture, especially with the wild card picture being so stacked. I mean, the Rams are 2 games out right now. But I like Atlanta minus the 4. And Ralph, I like the over. I think this game's going to be a shootout.
I have no opinion, Prez. And even though we study the games and we watch the games and we make lines and we look like, we like to give suggestions in every game. I just, I played against Atlanta last week. I thought that defense made just one spirited effort against New Orleans, and I was wrong. They made another spirited effort against Carolina, holding them to 77 yards rushing and holding them to 347 yards. So, perhaps they did tweak some things or find it. I didn't watch either game. I taped them, but I didn't watch either game yet to know just how much or what they changed.
Well, I think what you'll find interesting in the Tampa Bay New Orleans game is the Tampa Bay is just all out of sorts. I mean, their wide receivers are constantly dropping the ball. They have no running back at all. Like, they can't run the ball at all. The defense is making stupid penalties. There's just something wrong in every facet of this Tampa Bay team, which is a shame because I'm such a Bruce Arians fan. But it's also why I'm prepared to take the home favorite here, because Tampa Bay simply can't get out of their own way.
Well, the two numbers that stick out is you look at the last 4 games. In the last 5 games, Tampa Bay is minus 14 turnovers.
Yeah, it's crazy.
That's almost impossible to do.
I mean, it's
minus 6 against Carolina, minus 3 against Tennessee, and minus 4 against New Orleans.
Yeah, I mean, it's Phillip Rivers numbers, for Christ's sake. Detroit heading into Washington. Detroit's minus 3.5. The over and under is 42. Ralph, I like the under in this game. That's all I like in this game. I'm not getting to the window. This game, again, is pretty much a pass for me.
Well, I keep watching Washington, and at least now they know what they're going to do. You look
lose.
Well, you have an interim coach, so he's playing with some things. At least Dwayne Haskins is going to be your quarterback, but he's been sacked 14 times the last 4 games. Detroit really doesn't have a pass rush. They had 5 sacks against Trubisky and they had 5 sacks against Murray in the opener, but besides that, they've only had 10 sacks in their other 8
their
games.
Their defense is a mess.
Yeah, they're in their last 5 games. The Detroit Lions defense has allowed 16 touchdown passes with no interceptions. So I understand the dynamic that over the last 4 weeks, this Washington team has averaged about 220 yards per game. So, it's a game where I think I would bet Detroit because I couldn't bet Washington, but I really don't want to bet Detroit.
I'm wearing Detroit color right now, but I can't bet Detroit either, brother. Jack, one more early game, and that's Seattle. I don't know why they're down at the bottom of the rotation, number 273.
They flexed out the Sunday night game. So now from this week on, they take the Sunday night game they won 2 weeks in advance, and they changed the Sunday night game.
So it used to be the Sunday night game, right? Yes. Seattle's going into Philadelphia. Philly is -1.5. The total in this game is 48.5. And man, I want to bet Philly, Ralph. I think Philly's a good team, but I need Elshon back. I need Jackson back. I mean, their offensive line is missing 2 players. They're missing Howard. Carson Wentz just looks out of sorts right now. Seattle is coming off of a bye. Seattle has to be the play, but I don't think I'm getting to the window on this game.
I may get to the window. Seattle's 7-0-1 as a dog. You've got a rested team. You're off that big win against San Francisco. You have the quarterback that I probably want to lead a team on the road.
Yep.
You have a defense that hasn't played that well, but that's all right. I mean, because Philadelphia's offense has struggled as much as anyone. So it's one way for me. It's Seattle or pass.
Yeah, and that makes total sense. I mean, I think it's really hard to make an argument for Philadelphia in this spot. +1.5. I mean, do you really call that a dog?
Well, yeah. I think there's a mentality. I think the NFL, you have a mentality. When you open up the paper and you see that, or you're a plus when you're looking at the odds, I absolutely do think that there's a big difference being plus anything versus being a pick or being a minus.
He's Ralph Michaels. I'm the Prez. You're watching the NFL Presidential Address. Changed the scroll again, guys. Tony Finn, 1 month of all his plays for $100 off of the regular price. Head over to wagertalk.com. Use the promo code Tony225. Ralph, there's only 2 late games. Jacksonville, Tennessee, and Dallas and New England. Jacksonville going into Tennessee. Tennessee -3. The over and under is 41.5. I'll tell you flat out, I'm going to get to the window on both the side and total. I like Tennessee -3, and I like the under in this game, which leaves a very little amount of room for Jacksonville to score. But I don't think they're going to score a lot of points here. I think Nick Foles is the most overrated starting quarterback in history. I think he makes Doug Williams look like Joe Montana. He makes Trent Dilfer look like Tom Brady. This guy, if you go back and you look at his stats when he was the starter for Philadelphia, even before the Super Bowl run, they were nothing to write home about. Then he goes to LA, plays for the Rams, loses his starting job. And then he plays for Philadelphia again as they march to the Super Bowl. And look, he got the job done. And respect to him. Super Bowl MVP. I get it. Trent Dilfer got the job done. Jeff Hostetler got the job done. Doug Williams.
Joe Flacco.
What?
Joe Flacco.
Joe Flacco. Doug Williams. Phil Simms. Okay, Phil Simms was better than those guys, but you get my point. Peyton Manning in Denver. Doesn't get worse than that. So don't be thinking Nick Foles is some great quarterback all because he won the Super Bowl. I think the guy is terrible. I think they're better off with the mustache. They're not going to agree because he's a big sign and they're going to let him, work out the kinks. I think this Jacksonville defense, they let over 200 yards rushing against Indianapolis. Okay, I grant you, Indianapolis is the best O-line in all of football. You know what? Tennessee's O-line is pretty damn good too on the running game. And Henry is an animal. 17-10, 17-7, 20-6. Tennessee in the under for me.
Well, Jacksonville allowed 264 yards at Indianapolis, rushing 7.3 yards per carry. The game before that, Prez, they allowed 216 yards and 6.4 yards per carry at Houston. Yeah. So back-to-back road games is too tough. Cuts off a couple days of Foles to practice. I agree. I like the Tennessee team. The win against Kansas City. Even the loss against Carolina. I mean, against Carolina, they had a 61-yard edge. The only reason they lost that is they turned the ball over twice. So, you're talking, you beat the Chargers, you beat Tampa Bay, you're 3-1 your last 4. You have the right person leading your team. Derrick Henry can run the ball. Your receivers are average, but I mean, hell, I'd take Corey Davis and A.J. Brown over DJ Clark and Chris Connolly. So you're the better set of receivers. I agree with Tennessee.
Yeah, I mean, you got issues when Ryan Tannehill's the best quarterback on the field. Dallas going into New England, and we spoke about this game today on the Betting Edge, and I'd like to make a public declaration. I would like to thank Tom Brady for his service as the greatest quarterback of all time. It was a pleasure watching you play. You are a god to me. Not only are you the best quarterback of all time, you might be the handsomest athlete of all time. You get to sleep with a supermodel. Your life is perfection. Goodbye. It's time to move on. Your arm is dead. You can't throw the ball. You can't find your wide receivers if they're standing open 10 feet in front of you. It's okay, Tom. It's fine. You've done everything you can do. Dallas plus the 6. Ralph?
Hi, my name's Prez. Kelly, would you tell me if I ever think I'm going to bet New England?
I'm not betting this game. I'm not bet. I like Dallas. I'm not going to bet it. I like Dallas a lot, and I'm not going to bet this game.
This was my tweet 3 hours ago. And for those that don't, make sure you follow me at Cal Sports LV. You're going to get a ton of systems and angles. So I'm just going to read my tweet from 3 hours ago. The following message is a public service announcement. The New England Patriots at home are 43-16 against the spread, 73%. The Patriots at home, their last 20 games, 16-4, 80%. I am not betting against the Patriots at home, especially if you saw the Tom Brady post-game interview. You thought they lost the game. He talked about how bad the offense was.
Well,
when Tom Brady's that pissed about fixing something, I ain't betting against him, period.
Okay, so Ralph, I'm not betting against them either for all the reasons you have said. That's just me being a wimp.
You just have to twerk a little bit and say, I lean with Dallas.
Well, I don't lean with Dallas. I love Dallas. I'm just not going to get in the way of Tom Brady and Bill Belichick. But look, maybe this is it for Tom. So we won't need to discuss these freaking trends next year. I'll tell you who it is it for. Phillip frickin' Rivers. That guy, we're witnessing, I don't know, whatever his record is. I think he's 6 games left in his career. And that's the end of Phillip Rivers, which is a shame because he's a cool bloody dude, Ralph.
Yeah, I mean, hell, who would drive 2 hours a day on the LA traffic to keep your wife and family together in San Diego and not move them to LA to have to deal with all that crap? So he's a hell of a husband and hell of a father. He's a hell of a human being all around. I mean, I really, I wanted him very badly to win a Super Bowl. I'm a huge Phillip Rivers fan, but man, it comes and it goes, Bjorn Borg ain't playing tennis anymore. Arnold Palmer doesn't golf much anymore. Wayne Gretzky doesn't play hockey anymore. Oh, well, he could. I mean, let's be honest here. Wayne Gretzky, if he could go into the league right now and put up 90 points. My brother, a money line, a teaser, and a survivor. Money line wise, why don't you go first? Well, I am not one that teases very often in the NFL. So as far as the teaser goes, I am going to pass. Looking at the money lines, um, I could see the New York Giants beating Chicago plus the 6, and I also Green Bay plus the 3 against San Fran.
Yeah, teaser-wise, I have nothing. Money line-wise, I have nothing either. I mean, the only thing that jumps out at me really is Cincinnati has a shot at winning this game, and they're going to be a really nice dog. And as their survivor play goes, I have New Orleans in the bag, so I'm going to take them. Ralph, outstanding show, my friend. I cannot thank you enough for doing this show with me. You are without question the busiest man at Wager Talk by far. You're pretty much, what is this, show 8 for today?
No, I cut some back. But hey, all kidding aside, check out Wager Talk TV. Joe Ranieri and I tape 10 a.m. Pacific. So by 1:30 Eastern daily, Monday through Friday, we give you a quick 35 or 45-minute show on college basketball. It keeps you updated with what's happening. We talk about a couple marquee games. We give you a best bet. We go through some underdogs that we think can win outright. It really goes by fast. Joe and I are having a blast doing it. It's only been a week in. The views are great. The responses are great, so make sure you check it out.
Yeah, and Joe started an NBA show today as well. And just for the record, Joe's the best host we have.
Joe's
That's
awesome.
male.
Yep.
That's male. And that includes me. Ralph?
Oh, God, no, not even a question.
Yeah, baby, you're right. It is not even a question. I agree. I agree. Be well, my friend. Thanks so much. And thanks, everybody, for watching the NFL Presidential Address.
Thanks, Prez. Till next Tuesday.